When it comes to the Sixers, there's a huge debate. Should they go after a third max player or should they just load up on role players? So we'll talk about that and more next on Locked On 76ers.
You are Locked On 76ers, your daily Philadelphia 76ers podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Thank you for making Locked On 76ers your first listen every day. We are free and available wherever you get your podcast and on YouTube, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Hello, I'm Keith Pompey, and this is my right-hand man, John Mitchell. We are the co-host of Locked On 76ers. Today, we got a lot to talk to you about. Like I alluded to in the beginning, is we got to decide. We're going to decide right here, what should the Sixers do? There's a lot of people debating third star or load up on role players. So we'll talk about that. Secondly, we'll talk about an option that I feel like if he slides to him, Rob Dillingham, I don't think he'll slide to him, but if he should slide to the Sixers, should they take him? I say yeah, but some people say no. But I'll discuss that. And on the third segment, we're going to do something that I really don't want to do. Because to be honest with you, I'm tired of
the conversation.
Tired of the conversation. But we got a good friend, Akbar, and that's all he talks about. Like, he should have a Caitlin Clark flag. Like, whenever she gets stripped, whenever anything happens, whenever she hits an air ball or does something, it doesn't matter. She is saving the WNBA in his eyes. And so we got to talk about this debate if she should make the Olympic team or should she have made the Olympic team or not. I don't think she should have, but, we'll get into that. But listen, let's start off with, we're going to talk about the third star versus the role players thing. And it all sounds good. But Mitch, last year, the Sixers had a bunch of role players. Mm-hmm. They had Tobias Harris, who struggled in the playoffs. But aside from that, they had Joel Embiid, Tyrese Maxey, mm-hmm. and a bunch of role players. And they lost in 6 games in the first round.
That's right.
Right? So when Joel Embiid went out, they looked like, they took the Spurs who were tanking, and had a bunch of players missing that game or just coming back. And they needed 53 points from Tyrese Maxey, I believe.
Yep.
53 or 52 to beat the Spurs in double overtime. Where 2 of the Spurs players left because of injury.
Right.
So when we talk about getting a bunch of role players to build a team, you need stars. Yeah. And the thing about it is that people got to realize, you look at the Boston Celtics, they have 4 star players. They have another very good player in Derek White. And then they have a former star player in Al Horford. Mm-hmm. So the stars that they have are Drew Holiday, Kristaps Porzingis, and Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum. And the reason I'm saying stars is they were all star players, right? This and that. They do this. But the reason why they are successful, y'all, is because they all buy in and they all play their roles. And a guy like Derek White is a great player, a good player. I don't know if he's on that star level yet, but he's playing like one, right? And he's going to get paid like one.
Yeah.
But that's what it is. You have to sacrifice. So the problem isn't that the Sixers don't have stars. That don't have role players. What you got to do is you got to turn star players. You got to get star players and turn them into role players. Guys who just want to do it for the team.
Yeah.
They have to get.
Yeah. So, I'm of the mindset that they have to get a star. Because it's a stars league. Now you can look at Dallas and make the argument that they have two stars, two great players. And, although they're down 0-2 in the finals, they're there because of those stars. Now, I think that with the 76ers, and you make a good point, and that's where you start talking about chemistry, you start talking about culture, you start talking about what the organization can mold and what the mindset is once you sign, once you're in the door. And if you, I don't believe that the role players, obviously you have to have role players, but they have to have role players with approaching elite or elite talent. Because whenever it happens, if you bring in a Jimmy Butler, if you bring in a Paul George, they're going to have to compromise at time. Everybody's going to have to compromise, and that includes even the stars. That includes Joel Embiid. Sometimes you got to step back. Sometimes when you're clogging up the perimeter, you need to move away from the perimeter and let other players do what they do best in the perimeter. And that's something the 76ers don't do very well. So if you're going to, you win with power. And the other caveat is we don't know which stars will be available at crunch time with the 76ers. So you may have those. Boston's got all their stars. Porzingis is a question mark because of his health right through here. But for the by and large, those guys are all out there when they need to be. You saw, like you said, you saw what they did with role players. They lost to a New York team that was really, if you look at that New York roster, they were close to depleted by the end of that. No OG, and a few other players were absent, towards the end of that series. So you can't really rely on, guys who are at the middle of the pack and ship. It's not going to. We've seen that it's not going to advance you from where you got this year, and that's not part of the plan. That's not part of the process. That's not part of the plan. This summer again, the 76ers have to do the right thing because they can't. A second round elimination, which they didn't reach this year, just won't do.
Yeah, and that's the thing, it won't do. But see, here's the difference. This is the thing. Like, okay, I remember when what was it? We were in Milwaukee, not this past season, not this season right here, but the season prior. It was PJ Tucker and I, and we were like shoot around. So I was sitting there talking to him, and he said, Keith, like, people don't realize to win a championship, you got to have good players, of course, but you got to get buy-in.
Yeah.
And what that means, he says, like, you got to stick to your role.
Right.
And that's what it is. You just got to do it. And the thing is, because remember, he won a chip with the Bucks. And he said, you got to stick to your role. And he says, the problem nowadays, you get a lot of good players together and everybody wants to be the man. Nobody wants to sacrifice.
Yeah.
And whenever PJ goes to Milwaukee, we laugh and joke. I laugh and joke with him because he has yet to pay for a meal since he won a chip whenever he goes there. He goes there, dude, at his hotel, he's getting boxes full of stuff from fans and everything.
PJ
like PJ Tucker.
He's like Nick Foles in Milwaukee, huh?
Dude, he won a chip. All of them are like the guys who won a chip. That's how it is. So that's what has to happen. And you look at a guy like, is a reason why everybody wants to play with Drew Holiday. You covered him.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? He's a great player.
Yeah.
But he's a role player. He knows his role.
But
it's not about him.
But his head was so different. When he was 20 years old, he was 35 in his head.
Yeah, he'll point. Yeah, it's like he was raised the right way. There's a reason why all three of his other two brothers played, right?
Right.
And his sister played, right? So, but what I'm saying is, it's like his head is different, but that's the type of mentality you need to win a chip.
Right.
Like, we were talking about Kevin Looney yesterday, role player. He was a McDonald's All-American in high school.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, So what I'm trying to say is one of those things where you just have to get great players who are willing to take one for the team, because that's how they're going to win a chip. That's what you need.
Yeah,
And that's what they need. That's what they need.
Yeah, there is definitely excuse me, a required buy-in. It's a buy-in mentality and it's a commitment mentality.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and maybe we can talk about this a little bit more when we get back after the break. We can also talk about that Rob Dillingham and what he might bring to the 76ers. I like him. He's kind of small, but I like him. But this show is sponsored by BetterHelp. Have you ever had, something on your mind or something that you've just got to get off the top of your head, or something sitting on your chest that might be weighing you down? We all carry around different stressors, and they can be big and small. And when we keep them bottled up, it can start to affect us negatively. Therapy is a safe space to get things off your chest and to figure out how to work through whatever's weighing you down. So if you're thinking about starting therapy, you should consider BetterHelp. Give BetterHelp a try. It's entirely online. It's designed to be convenient, flexible, and it's suited to your schedule. All you have to do is fill out a brief questionnaire to get matched with a licensed therapist and switch therapists at any time for no additional charge. So if you're not satisfied with the therapist you've initially started with, guess what? You can take an erase to it and get a new one. So get it off your chest with BetterHelp. Visit betterhelp.com/LockedOnNBA today and get 10% off your first month. That's BetterHelp, HELP.com/LockedOnNBA. So tell me this. Are you watching Fox Sports or ESPN on TV all day long? Do you have to sometimes turn down the volume when Shannon and Stephen A start shouting at each other? Make the switch to Locked On Sports today, a free 24/7 sports streaming channel programmed for you every day to bring you the biggest stories without all the screaming. Locked On Sports today brings you can't miss analysis, opinions, and news streaming 24/7 on YouTube or the free Amazon Fire TV channels app. It's part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every single solitary day.
Do it today, people. Definitely do it today. So here's the thing, Mitch. So the guy Rob Dillingham is, there's some people it was projecting him to go top 5. Some people say, top 10. But what happened is he measured out at 6'1" and 165 pounds, right? So the last time, we haven't seen someone that small in the NBA to play the type of role that he plays, as a scorer, since Allen Iverson, right? Now everybody ain't Allen Iverson, right? So we know that. Now he's 164. Now the crazy part is, there's some concerns that have about whether his size will prohibit him from duplicating the college role that he has in the elite 6-man, right? So at Kentucky, he initiated the offense and closed out games with his ability to make shots. Now, averaging just 23.3 minutes, the 19-year-old was Kentucky's second leading scorer at 15.2 points per game, while shooting 44.4% on three-pointers. So in addition to making perimeter shots, he displayed an explosive first step and the ability to get to the rim. Now, he was the 6th man of the year for the SEC. He was a second-team all-conference, and he made the conference's all-freshman team. Now, the crazy part is, about when we talk about him, is that people think that he may slide because of that.
Right.
There are teams like the Spurs and the Charlotte Hornets who could have interest. Now, San Antonio has the number 4 and number 8 picks in the draft. Charlotte will select 6. Now, ESPN's mock draft have the Hornets selecting them here, and NBA.com has the Utah Jazz selecting them at 10.
At 10.
And yeah, at number 10.
Mm.
And the consensus mock draft compiled by NBADraft.net has the Spurs selecting them 8th, right?
8th.
Yeah. Now I talked to a couple scouts and from teams, and one scout was like, "Look, kid, he ain't sliding to the Sixers. I'm just going to tell you."
Yeah.
And he said the reason why he's not going to slide to the Sixers is because a small market team, a la Charlotte, a la the Spurs, a place where players don't want to go to in free agency, is going to look at this guy for what he do and gamble on him, thinking he can become that guy, right?
Yeah.
But here's the deal: there are other people saying that his size may scare certain people.
Yeah.
So if that's the case, I think the Sixers need to go out there and just snatch him up, especially a team that has a lot of holes to fill. That's if the Sixers don't trade the pick, because I feel like he can be like a Maxey to him, come off the bench and get buckets. But at the same time, I think that he would be the best, by far the best player available at number 16.
Yeah. Well, I mean, if you like him over guys like who are more likely to be the guys like Collie and some of those other names we talked about earlier, then yeah, he's if he's there. I mean, the knock on him is obviously his size. But when you watch Kentucky with that class of All-American, of high school All-Americans that they had, and he emerged as one of he and the other kid emerged as the best players, and the kids from Camden.
It's crazy, right?
Yeah, crazy. I mean, everybody thought Cal had a super class, and this guy emerged. I mean, he's a guy who, if he's there, I'm tempted. And he's small, but you know what? The Sixers have had a history of having players that don't fit the physical prototype. Allen Iverson, again, I'm not comparing him to Allen Iverson, but they once upon a time had a 6'4" small power forward who's one of the best rebounders and a Hall of Famer, and perhaps the best broadcaster we've ever seen, and Charles Barkley. So I think you have to. If he's there, he's tempting to me, Keith. Obviously, he's not a starter. You're not saying he's a starter. You're drafting a guy who you see him, down the bench, third, fourth guy. You can put him in there. You can put him on the point. A guy who can make baskets, who can shoot. And sometimes you just got to be willing to gamble, man. Sometimes you got to, height be damned. If you can play, you can play. And if you can't, you can't. And that's what the front, they've seen enough of him, because every NBA team had droves of scouts at Kentucky's game waiting to see those other players there. DeJuan Wagner's son and the kid from Imhotep waiting to see those kids emerge as the players they suspected they would be. So he caught their eye. He kind of stole the show. So
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Yeah. So if he's there, you're not looking to. They didn't expect Max to be the player that he did. I'm sure they didn't, and everybody else, just missed on that. And so with this kid, if he's there, you know what his pedigree is, you know where he played, and he can just got a nice jump shot. And he's a role player. He's a role player, like we just talked about.
Yeah, it's crazy that you said it, because when you look at it, is one of the things is. We look at the other guy from Imhotep. His name is Justin Edwards, right? And so he's in the draft. Great player, but rated the 3rd best player in the country by like ESPN, Scout.com, all that, right? All 3 publications, they all rated him the 3rd best player in that class. Right. And then DJ Wagner, is rated by Rivals. He was number 6, by 24/7 Sports. He was number 6. And ESPN, he was number 4. But yet, this dude that we're talking about, his cream rose to the top, and he's the guy. So, it is what it is. But he played well, and Cal, does have a history of producing guys. You know what I mean, making it. So
That's
I
part
would,
of his.
huh?
That's part of his recruit. That was part of his recruiting pitch. I will get you to the league.
Exactly. So we'll see. We'll see what they can do. But I think that if he's there, like you said, you gotta take him. You gotta gamble on this dude. You really do.
Yeah, and I just don't get the feeling that he's going to slip. I'm kind of with
Mm-mm.
that cumulative that had him number 8. I don't know if he goes that high, but he doesn't slip.
I don't think he gets it past number 10.
That's what. Yeah, I was gonna say I don't think he gets past number 12.
Yeah.
And so we'll take a little break right here and talk a little bit about FanDuel. Summertime means baseball, the NBA Finals, and more. And you can bet it all on FanDuel. Right now, new customers get $200 in bonus bets with any winning $5 bet. What a deal that is. That's $200 you can use to bet everything from the Finals MVP to who's going to hit one out of the park. Visit fanduel.com/lockedon and add a big win to your summer bucket list. That's FanDuel, America's #1 sports book. Do it today, folks. Do it all day long. Do it till the fluid gets hot.
It's crazy. Well, I'm gonna tell you this. What people doing is they doing it all day, night, month, week, decade. This Caitlin Clark
in their sleep.
In their sleep. And you know what? I'm of the belief that, so I don't think that she deserves to make the team, the Olympic team. She didn't make it. And the reason why I'm saying that is because I look at Abumake, the young lady from the Dallas Wings, who is balling, the second leading scorer in the WNBA. This girl was getting the commercials. She had the commercials before Caitlin Clark, right?
Yeah.
And she didn't make the team.
Right.
So
and Keith, remember, she also won a national championship, something in college, something Caitlin Clark didn't do.
Exactly. And in order for you to be regarded as the GOAT, they say you got to win one, right? In college. That's what they say.
Right.
So, but then you hear the thing where people are arguing about, but look what she has brought to women's basketball. And I get that argument. But see, the problem is if you watching the games and you seeing her play all the time. Now, it's different if they pick the Olympic team or if the women's basketball season was like the men. So they picked the women's team after her coming off a hot college year.
Right.
And then, like, that's what they did with Christian Laettner. That's what they did to stuff like that, right? Now, again, they had to have one there. But you look at it like, okay, she deserves to make it. But when you see these games, and especially 2 nights ago, after she said they woke a monster, and you drive the lane and hit an air ball 8-footer, and then you try to get a loose ball and get the ball snatched from you. And then, like, you hear one game she had 3 points, this and that. So it's kind of like when they play the Bobo squads, she looks good against the Bobo squads.
Yeah.
But when they play the real good teams, the competitive teams, she struggles mightily.
Yeah.
Right. And to me, it's one of those things where it's a problem. It's a problem.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's a problem.
Yeah. Well, I mean, Keith, one thing I would say is, there are 4 active players who are on the Tokyo team who are 4 active players, and that would be Skylar Diggins-Smith, Sylvia Falls, Ariel Atkins, and Tina Charles, who are on that Tokyo team who are not going to Paris. And as you mentioned, the young lady, I'm not even going to try, Boumakwe, I'm not even going to try to really pronounce her name and do her disservice and an injustice, but she's second in the league in scoring and first in steals And as we alluded to earlier, she won a championship. You have to be. These are the Olympics, man. It's not marketing. And I get so sick and tired of turning on the television and saying, oh, for marketing and growing the game. God damn it. This is not about growing the game. This is about continuing winning the gold medal. That's what this is about. And if you lose, guess what? Because you had a lesser player on the roster, you're not growing the game. So the women's Olympic team is like 71-3 or something like that since I think it was 19. I saw some crazy stats since 1996. So what you do is you take the 12 best players in the WNBA, or if there's a college player who just happens to be so marvelous, but you can't, as you saw with Caitlin Clark, there's a change in the athleticism. And as you can see, that's the way the European players are coming to the NBA and dominating. There's a step up internationally now in the level of athleticism that these female athletes have. And Caitlin Clark's going to have her day. It's just her day is just not today. And I kind of feel, honestly, I feel a little bit sorry for Caitlin Clark. And people say, "Oh, you don't be sorry for her because all the money she's made." I feel sorry for Caitlin Clark because she has become the avatar for America's pathetic inability to reconcile and ameliorate its race problem. You've had 400 years to fix this thing. And now what happens is Caitlin Clark has to hold the expectations of white America in her hands. She's got to go out there and, oh, she's the greatest thing since sliced bread. She's this, she's that. And you know what? I'm rooting for Caitlin Clark. I want to see her succeed because I root for all athletes. But don't give her this artificial boost based on her race and then try to act like you just love her because she's Caitlin. People who have discretionary income overwhelmingly in America are white. And that's a problem. And it's a problem because if you're going to use your discretionary, you're only going to use discretionary income on things you want to see. And the people, again, those who have discretionary income want to see a Caitlin Clark. So they throw their money at it. But okay, we have to throw that out the window and put the 12 best players in the WNBA on the Olympic team. You can't use built-in societal advantages. You just can't do that. And that's what this whole Caitlin Clark. Let's keep it real. It's a race issue. And I hear a lot of these talking heads. A lot of them I have respect for. I'm kind of like, you keep it real right now in this moment, and they're not keeping it real.
All right, so I'm gonna ask you this. So, and again, I just want to ask you this so you can get this out because if it's a race issue, then why are guys like Stephen A. Smith and Shannon Sharp, Shay going so strong for?
Because cash rules everything around me. Cream, get the money, dollar bill, y'all. Get Cole making money on a regular basis on television. And television demands that sometimes you compromise what you say. And let me be clear, Stephen A. is not one to do that. Very good friend of mine. I don't know Shannon, but Stephen took the route that a lot of talking heads are taking and saying that, well, you have to grow the game. All of a sudden, we're concerned about growing the game. The game is growing fine. And you know what? Thanks to Caitlin Clark. So I understand that. But you know what? Let's not. We've poisoned everything else with money. Let's not poison competition at the highest level with money. All right. Let's let the best players go. And when Caitlin Clark is the best player, who knows? Maybe in the 4 years between now and then, there's a better player who comes out of the college ranks, maybe a better white player who can grow the game even better, who is more athletic, who can come to the WNBA and be a dynamo. Maybe we can get that. Like I said, cash rules everything around me. And not just me, but me, you, and all of you. So that's just what it is, man.
Well, if you say a better white player, I got one the girl Paige Beckers. I don't know if you're familiar
No, I'm
with her.
familiar with from UConn.
Yeah,
I love
from
her game, man.
UConn. Yeah, 6-foot point guard. The funny thing, not funny thing, and it's kind of sad though, but it's one of those things where she was always it. She was that girl. She was like the number one player in the country, the whole nine.
Injury study.
Injuries, exactly. Injuries. She was like the Gatorade Player of the Year in 2020 high school, the Naismith Prep Player of the Year, Morgan Wooten Player of the Year, Minnesota Miss Basketball. As a junior, she was USA Basketball Female Athlete of the Year. We're talking about high school. She was all that, and then some. And like you said, the knee injury. So, she's going to be the one next year. And it's funny, they're going to do expansion teams, and so we'll see what the deal is. But she is the face of women's basketball, 6-foot point guard. Her and Caitlin Clark, the same height. So,
like I said, Caitlin Clark, and I'm rooting for Caitlin Clark, man. And, she is just, again, she has to carry the weight and the bulk of America's unresolved race issues.
Yeah, I feel bad for it a little bit.
I feel bad for her, man. I think,
I feel bad for her. But hey, y'all, we want to thank y'all for listening. So, but before you go, I just want to tell you, Locked On has launched the first ever national sports 24/7 streaming channel on YouTube, and now it's also available on Amazon Fire TV and the free Fire TV channel app. Locked On Sports Today is here for you 24/7, covering the top sports stories of the day with the local experts of Locked On Plus, our national shows covering every league. Locked On Sports Today, now available on the free Fire TV channels app. Do it today, people. Definitely do it today.
Every day.
And we'd like to thank y'all for listening, and we want y'all to have a blessed day. Peace.
Take care, y'all.
I was waiting for you to say something.
And
come back. Trying to be very white.
Yeah, and come back and check us out tomorrow when we talk about your boy Embiid.
Yeah. Is it time to get rid of Embiid?
Yeah.